So I'm going to do a little bit more on this. And even though it's this simple little project, I definitely try to think about all the bigger things that I think of when I'm doing a more finished painting, sort of bigger, legitimate piece. So a couple of things I'm thinking about for this little composition. I haven't really introduced some modeling, some gradation of color to indicate where the forms of these mountains or this object in front. This is not as black as I know I can get, and this line was just leading a little bit too much the viewer's eye off. So I want something that's gonna stop that from happening. So I'm just introducing. I'll keep talking about things that I am doing, and hopefully it'll make for a stronger composition. So I'm just going to introduce another little element here, which could be a hill. And I'm thinking it's obviously, maybe not obvious, closer than this one and further than this one. So I'm going to find a value that's in between there and see how that goes. That seems close to that, a little too close. Just grabbed a little more water. Yeah, it was seeming still a little too close, so I brought in even a little bit more water. And now I'm going to do a little bit of trying to make it appear so these hills have a little bit of roundness to them. And I've been going back and forth on sort of which way would be smarter to do that. And I think I'm going to imagine that the light source is coming from this way. And I'll try to explain why. But in general, I'm wondering if I could make this area here. If I was being really serious, I would have, I would really spend a lot of time planning out all the values so that everything was helping lead the viewer's eye towards where I had decided the focal center was, focal point. So I'm just wetting this shape. It looks like it was getting darker. I don't think it was getting darker. Might be getting a little darker. But I'm just wetting this hill. And then I'm going to go grab a little bit of a darker color. Actually, I will get my smaller brush too, because I want to try to introduce a little bit of darker color to sort of imagine that this has some volume to it. But I want to do it in a way that it's not increasing the contrast too much, because it's a quiet little piece. So when I'm trying to make a little graded feel. And what's happening is one thing I was wondering if that would bug me or not, but I am changing it a little bit darker here on this side of the hill, which is making it closer to the value of the next hill. So, but for a couple of reasons, I want that to be the way that the light goes, and I'm going to keep hoping that if I keep going, I can figure something out. Coaxing a little bit, and this is a little bit like what? I think of it as sort of a molding, almost sort of a maybe if it was darker than that one, that would be good. I want something to indicate that there's an edge there, but I don't want to start making everything crazy contrasty. And if this idea is foreign to you, then I would encourage you to dig into just more general drawing and shading and three-dimensional volumes and stuff. Okay. This is when you put your patience hat on, but I enjoy doing that, so it's okay. Now I don't want to paint any shape next to that, and I kind of want to make sure I'm letting it dry enough. Oh, I can still make it a touch darker right up here. And I'm using a smaller brush and trying to make sure I introduce paint that's a little bit more concentrated than what is there, so it's a little darker, but I want to make sure that I don't bring in a bunch of extra water, because then it's gonna, so it's a little fun little tricky dance, and I may have just fussed with it to a point where now I'm gonna be sad, but I'll let that dry, see what happens. I'm gonna just deal with this shape in a similar fashion, and I'm gonna try to get it to have a gradation from pretty dark like it is to really as dark as I can go over here. And the way I'm going to do that is to mostly just probably get this shape wet first, and then squeeze in some darker color over here, which I find is the best way to create a graded wash, like in this particular situation where I don't want it any darker here, but I do want it darker here. I'm gonna get my number 12 and see if I can just wet that shape down. Without making it all streaky and lifty-uppy and stuff. So I'm gonna, every time I go back, I'm gonna try to, every time I finish a stroke, I'm gonna go get some more paint. Excuse me, water. This M-gram neutral tint, I think is fairly staining and is not, doesn't lift very easily, so that's good for this particular situation. It's not as good as, just trying to get this whole thing wet. I'll finish that other thought later, maybe. And this takes a lot of sort of looking at it sideways, and I doubt you're able to see that with the video light the way it is. So that seems good as far as just wetting that shape. And now I'm going to bring in this stronger color. And I do like doing this, and if you won't be able to, you probably won't cover it up by my fingers, but I'm squeezing in color and drops, and it's doing that. And the important thing is I have already decided the change in values. So yes, this can get a little hairy. I'm laughing because I'm having one of those, oh, that looks cool, too bad it won't dry like that kind of experiences. Clean up that edge, and I can still, I want it as black as it can go over here. In a way that sort of makes some kind of sense. I don't know that that makes a whole lot of sense, or maybe it does, and I'm not seeing it, and I just ruined it. I'm going to squeeze it a little bit more. The idea for this shape was originally sort of a tree line. It seems like it's turning into sort of a little hill shape of its own, which is not a terrible thing. In fact, I think I might like it. I'm getting even more darker color. Can you believe it? That's a good place to pause this video, but I'm going to come back and do a similar thing to the rest of the shapes, and then I'll probably figure out something else I have to do. Okay.